You don't have to believe me. Denial is warm like a coat you pull tighter when the wind cuts through. But I need you to understand something before we go any further. Some places are not meant for feet and some nights are not meant for walking. Not because of thieves. Not because of animals. Because there are corridors in the dark that are mouths, and when you pass through them, something tastes you. If you're listening to this with your shoes still on, if a hallway or a street or a stairwell waits between you and sleep, sit down. Take them off. Make the night think you're not going anywhere. My street never looked dangerous on a map. A straight line from the late shift to my apartment, 1.25 miles past the old canal, under the highway where the columns sweat in summer and the pigeons sleep in the rafters. For years I'd cut through there after midnight, earbuds in, a podcast to quiet the brain's teeth. But a week ago tonight, a podcaster's voice said the wrong sentence at the wrong time. Something about how the sound of your footsteps is the only proof you're alone, and my phone died in the middle of it, a clean black severing. I was at the underpass then, where the light turns sodium orange and the concrete carries every sound like a rumor. The first wrongness was small enough to ignore. My echo didn't agree with me. I took 4 steps, it counted 5. I stopped, it didn't. A single footfall tumbled on, growing thinner, like a coin rolling itself to sleep. I smiled at nothing. Long day, no coffee, brain playing tricks. I pressed the power button on my phone. Nothing. I listened. The air under the highway tasted metallic, the way blood tastes when you bite your tongue. The wind didn't blow. There was a sound, though, a low, continuous hum, the kind old fluorescent lights make, except there were only LED strips now, slick and bright and sterile. Hums like that don't live in wires. They live in throats. I kept walking. The canal was to my right, flat as burned glass. Across the water, a storage facility stacked orange doors into 100 little mouths. I like landmarks, they mean the world is still the world. I counted the street lights ahead, 8 to the bend, so I'd know if I lost time. I told myself that if I felt watched, it was because the city watches everyone with its cameras and windows and tireless blue dots on maps. I took one more step. Behind me, someone took it with me. I didn't turn. We make rules for ourselves in the dark, and my first rule has always been, don't feed what you don't want. Attention is meat. Fear is salt. I kept my eyes forward and let my breath grow shallow until it didn't show. 4 streetlights to the bend now. The hum grew louder, almost a pressure, the way a bass note lives inside your ribs. My tongue grew numb. For a second I thought I smelled pennies again, then something older, wet plaster, mold, the sourness of laundry that never quite dries. The smell came from the canal, I told myself. Water keeps its own time. I reached the 3rd light when I saw it. My shadow stood still while I moved. You learn your own silhouette without knowing you've learned it. You know the angle of your jaw, the hitch of your shoulder under a backpack strap, the curve that is yours and no one else's. Mine waited in place, a cutout on the concrete, head turned. Then it fell into step with me, a half beat late, as if something behind me had put its feet where mine had just been. I walked faster. The hum resolved into breath, not mine. The kind of breath a room makes after a cry, when something holds itself and shakes. The 3rd rule came then uninvited. If you have to run, run toward light, toward sound, toward names. I looked to the storage facility across the canal and tried to imagine each orange door was a person with a name who would open it and say mine back to me. The dark ran along beside me anyway. I passed a puddle that should have reflected me once. It reflected me twice. I didn't realize I had started praying until I heard the last words of it in my head. Please not tonight, and my mouth said nothing because my mouth had gone dry. Streetlight 5. The underpass swallowed the sky, turning every step into a basement. The echo behind me stopped for one beat and I felt it lean. I felt the skin between my shoulder blades sigh inward as if the air there had thinned. I did not turn. I told myself I was steady, I was sane, I was a set of bones inside a night that would break like all nights do at dawn. Then my pocket buzzed. My dead phone lit up with a message that had no sender. The screen showed only a waveform and a play button. No timestamp. No app icon. I didn't press it. It pressed itself as if a thumb I couldn't see had laid down on the glass. A loop of breath filled my hand. Not an audio file the way you know them, not tinny and flat. It was my breath and not my breath, my cadence but slowed, the way a recording of your voice sounds like a stranger trying you on. It matched the breath I hadn't meant to give away. Paused when I did. And beneath it, in the low register where the hum had lived, something exhaled over my exhale, a second mouth trying to speak through mine. The waveform stuttered, then widened, as if the thing had pressed its face closer to the microphone that wasn't there. I stopped. The breath in my hand did not stop. A car passed on the far road, brief as a memory. Its headlights made the canal flash like a knife. In that slice of brightness, I saw ripples spread outward from the bank below me, not a fish, not a thrown stone. Ripples from the shape of a step taken on water. The hum deepened, and I felt a pressure on my left side where no body stood, a pressure like someone trying gently to edge me toward the lip of the canal. The waveform on my phone throbbed. The second breath whispered a word that was almost my name, almost yours, a syllable too close to ignore and too wrong to answer. I took a step back. The pressure followed. I walked forward. It nudged. I thought of all the headlines that begin with found and end with alone. I thought about how many people disappear between 2 points on a map because the map forgot to draw them out there. I did what dumb animals do when cornered. I spoke to it without turning. I said, I know you're there. I said, I know you are old. I said, I know you learned the shape of people by listening to them walk. The hum stopped. For a heartbeat, the night went perfectly quiet, an emptiness like waking up from a dream of falling and not knowing if you hit. In that silence, something moved its face to the back of my neck and inhaled me. She turned against every instinct and saw it standing in her doorway. The figure had taken form now, no longer a blur. Its skin was stretched too tight across its bones, its eyes black pits that seemed to drink in the light. Its mouth hung open, too wide, dripping with something dark that wasn't saliva. And though its feet never touched the floor, it took a step toward her. Emily stumbled back, slamming against the wall. Her phone slipped from her hand, clattering across the floor. The screen lit up, and for the briefest second, she saw her own face staring back at her. Except it was smiling, eyes black, whispering the words she was too terrified to hear. The lights flickered back on. The apartment was whole again. Sarah was asleep peacefully on the couch. Everything looked normal, except for the footprints. Wet, black, and leading straight to Emily's bedroom door. And as she stared at them, too afraid to breathe, the doorknob began to turn. The doorknob rattled once, twice, then stopped. Silence draped over the apartment like a heavy blanket. Emily stood frozen, her lungs burning with shallow breaths. Every nerve screamed for her to run, to scream, but her body refused to obey. The air was so cold it felt like knives against her skin. Then came the sound. Slow, deliberate. The squeal of the doorknob turning all the way. Her bedroom door cracked open, spilling darkness into the hallway, not the ordinary dark of night, but something thicker, more alive, as though it were reaching for her. Emily's voice broke in a whisper. Please, stop. The door swung wide. What stepped out wasn't just the pale figure anymore. It was taller now, stretching, its head grazing the ceiling, its limbs grotesquely elongated, bones cracking with each movement. Its face was no longer blurred, it had borrowed hers. Her smile. Her eyes. But wrong. So wrong. Black pits where pupils should be. A grin torn too far across its face. It raised a hand, skeletal fingers dripping with something black that hissed when it hit the floor. And then it spoke in her voice. You shouldn't have walked alone. Emily bolted, screaming for Sarah. She shook her roommate awake, but Sarah didn't stir. Her eyes snapped open instead, milky white, mouth opening in a soundless scream. The shadows surged up from the floor, swallowing her body whole, leaving only the couch behind. The lights in the apartment exploded, showering sparks. Darkness collapsed inward, suffocating Emily in a void. The walls dissolved, replaced by endless black stretching in every direction. Yet she wasn't alone. Footsteps echoed from everywhere, hundreds of them, circling closer. Figures emerged from the dark, distorted, half-formed people, their faces mangled copies of her own. They walked in unison, their whispers overlapping until it became a roar inside her skull. Keep walking. Emily stumbled backward, but every step echoed too loudly, as though the sound didn't belong to her anymore. Her legs moved on their own, dragging her forward into the circle of twisted reflections. She tried to stop, but her body wouldn't obey. She was walking, and with each step, she felt herself fading, her skin colder, her heartbeat slower. Then she saw it. At the center of the circle. The real thing. The entity stood taller than them all, its eyes endless voids, its mouth wide enough to unhinge. When it spoke, it was every voice she had ever known. Her mother, her professors, Sarah, strangers on the street, all blended into one deafening command. You will never walk alone again. Its hand reached out, pressing against her chest. The cold burned through her ribs, straight into her heart. Her vision blurred, and in that final second she understood. This wasn't about being followed home. This wasn't about one night. This was a curse. The moment she stepped into the park, she hadn't been walking alone. She had been chosen. The entity leaned close, its face splitting into a smile that stretched too far. Its whisper slithered into her ear, But this time, it wasn't speaking to Emily. It was speaking to you. You feel it, don't you? That breath on your neck. That chill crawling up your spine. You're not alone anymore. You walked with her through this story, and now you walk with me. Silence. Then a faint knock. Slow. Measured. From inside your walls. If you think this was terrifying, you're nowhere near prepared for what comes next. Make sure you subscribe. You'll need it. I whispered no, but the sound died before it left my mouth. The walls were listening, drinking it. The puddles reflected not the ceiling but a sky that wasn't there, black, starless, endless. I looked away before it could pull me in. My throat hurt. My phone buzzed again, still dead, no icons, just that screen with the waveform. The line shifted, building into a voice I knew too well. My own. Except it wasn't repeating my breath anymore. It was narrating what I was doing word for word. He walks, the voice said. He does not stop. He does not turn back. I tried to drop the phone, but my hand clenched until my nails dug into my palm. My own body betrayed me, clutching the device like a relic. The voice continued. He is almost there. Almost where? My stomach turned to ice. The hallway ended in a door without a knob, old wood swollen with damp. Letters were carved into it with something sharp, uneven strokes gouged deep. I see you. I froze. The hum stopped. Absolute silence. For a heartbeat, relief flooded me, until I realized silence here meant the thing was closer than ever. The air chilled so fast frost bloomed along the pipes. My breath came out in clouds. My reflection moved in the frost before I did. Then the door shuddered. Once. Twice. Something behind it wanted out. My phone buzzed again, the waveform peaking. The voice of not me, wearing my cadence, whispered a final word before the chapter closed around me. Open. The word burned in my ears. Open. It wasn't a command, it was an inevitability. The door before me pulsed once, like a lung trying to remember how to breathe, and the wood groaned with the weight of whatever pressed from the other side. My hand moved against my will. Fingers lifted. I dug my nails into my own palm hard enough to break skin, but the blood only smeared warm across the handle that hadn't been there a moment ago. The hum returned, but it wasn't sound anymore. It was vibration, rattling inside my chest cavity, shaking ribs loose like bars on a cage. My phone lit with a brightness too sharp for eyes. The waveform swelled to fill the screen until it wasn't a line at all but an eye. An eye wide and lidless, staring straight through me. And when I blinked, the eye blinked back. The door split open. No creak, no splinter, just a wound appearing in the wood, blackness spilling out like smoke. Cold fingers of air wrapped around my face, pressing into my eyes, my nose, my throat until breathing felt like drowning in a sea with no water. The hum broke into whispers, layered hundreds thick, voices stacked like teeth. I caught fragments in them. Names, prayers, curses, things spoken centuries ago that had been waiting here for years. The blackness poured out, not fast but steady, filling the hallway floor first. It crawled over my shoes, up my ankles, hungry but patient. My reflection in the frost no longer matched me. It smiled wide, too wide, and whispered with the voices. The whispers didn't come from outside anymore. They came from inside my skull. I stepped back, but the hallway had shifted. Behind me wasn't the elevator. It was the underpass again, orange lights sputtering, the canal gleaming. My past and present knotted together, looping me in like a snare. I could hear the water ripple though I hadn't moved. I could hear something stepping across its surface. Then I saw it. A shape slid from the black in the doorway. Not tall. Not short. Not anything you could measure. Its edges wavered like heat over asphalt, but darker. Always darker. Where a face should have been, there was only the mouth from the mirror. A mouth that grinned open, as if it had been waiting for centuries for me. For you. It spoke without sound, and still the words burned across my mind. You walked. Now you're mine. The blackness surged, swallowing the walls. The hum shook the marrow in my bones until I dropped to my knees. My phone slipped from my hand, but it didn't fall. It hovered in the air, screen burning white, and began typing on its own. Line after line, a message forming. Not to me. To you. Listening is enough. You've heard, so you're marked. You're next. The letters froze and the screen went dark. The figure leaned close. I felt its breath on the back of my neck, cold as open graves. It whispered through my teeth, using my mouth to speak. You feel it, don't you? The cold creeping along your spine. The whisper in your ear. You're not alone anymore. And now, neither am I. The lights snapped out. Only the hum remained.